Hey, bubbling, coming in, crushing this art. Welcome to Bubblin's Astrologic Numerology. Today, we'll discuss the number two. So, happy birthday, my two people, right? If you love two, let us get to it. So, when we see two right off the bat, we start to see of one, two, three, aka placement wise, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, or nine. It is in the fixed realm. And realm rise, or it's in a fixed placement, and realm wise, it is cardinal because of one, two, three, four, five, and six, seven, eight, and nine. It is two, like of two, five, and eight, the fixed placements. So, and it is also water being the second on the dial of four, being the first pair fire, water. It is the second, right? And the second pair would be air, earth. And so it comes to water. And yeah, we can see this right here. Two also has this connection to fixity and becomes the first fixed fixed guy. So this is one interesting things about two is that two represents realization and reality, such that it represents all of the contracts that we've negotiated with people and everything that we accept to be true, and we continue in our off of. So, but it also connects to water. It also connects to it always connects to continually getting drawn out and learning new things about the world. This is taking shape of higher organizations and realizing things greater than yourself and letting in things greater than yourself or other than yourself, say family, friends, right? Really take on kind of the wheel of your imagination and your belief, right? Such that water will really draw us out and maybe get us in situations where we're too caught up in other people's things, or XYZ in the third, or maybe a little too changeable, right? Because we're caught up in one person's thing, but this ability to get caught up now has us in someone else's thing, right? Gets us caught up in something else, right? But this fixity in water, deals with this sort of emotional aspect and this contractual aspect that it is kind of has that ride or die energy, you know, within it. But yeah, so yeah, that's just like the interesting thing on how two represents this sort of learning on getting drawn out, right? Because if we're taking shapes of things other than us, it's sort of an expanse of us, right? Where now, if we're getting sucked up into a bunch of things, we're either safeguarding ourselves and like learning about what we can get sucked up into and what we can expand, aka gaining our sense of direction and the ability and the ability we see in the world, because now we've scouted new places, been invited in new meetings, right? XYZ in the third. But um but yeah, so it's just interesting how it has this sort of drawing us out nature, while also two is the beginning and represents fixity, which is the beginning of realization and dramatic nature, right? Like sort of self-realized corporeality. And so the reason this is think about one and two. If we think about the two, the yang and the yin, right? Well, now yang carries fire and water within it, whereas yin carries earth and air within it, right? Now think about that. Now within yin, air is the yang component, and earth is the yang component, and within yang, fire is the yang, and water is the yin, right? But we have the volatile, the yang, the passions, the fire, and the water, and the corporeal, the steady, the realized fire and earth, right? So now we get this sort of introduction to yin, um, but also an introduction to yin's volatility, right? Whilst it's like sort of dual component of this sort of needing to harmonize and needing to hold true to higher structures, higher balances, and law, like social law. Yeah, so that's just really interesting because why do I say this is interesting? Well, when we look at yang, it's very pure. But when we look at yin, it starts to become a mix. It starts to become a sort of separation already. Like right here, right, we see where the sun is raising, right? If we look at this as the horizon, spring solstice, right? And here's the summer or the spring equinox. Here's the summer solstice up here, right? If we look at this as where the sun rises, then we see that the sun is not only rising, but it's gaining daylight. AKA, it has two yang components, and it alludes to fire. And we also see that this is the beginning portion of the day, so it alludes to cardinality, the first four elements: fire, earth, air, and water. So we start to see that even zodiacally, the yang has this dual component of cardinality just is itself, whereas yin, once we start to look at it too, is over here, right, where it deals with fixity, and it's fire, earth, air, water, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio. But then the water is down here too, and it takes a little bit of a different role, right? Um, in that, um, yeah, just a little bit more skewed down here, right, versus up here. So we start to see this lack of overlap and this sort of understanding that now water sort of has this completely down and out role right over here, full moon scenario, right, being that this is fire and this is water, this is the beginning and this is the fullest, right. um, um, but it also has this sort of beginning, middle and end. It has this middle that's sort of realized, which we do see in the full moon too, right? In the full moon scenario, now we're only kind of shedding off and getting sucked up into everything we've manifested, just like in the fixity, it's just like a continuation. But it's still a little bit different in that water's going to continually bring in fortune and new events that are going to adjust what our habits are. Um, so yeah, that's a lot about two. I want to say, just to kind of sum up, two expresses itself in two, which is fixed in the cardinal realm, which we've discussed. So this is personally being kind of attached to one's habits in a way. Personally being attached to one's own reason and habits, yeah, and kind of developing your own kind of self-care and reason. Yeah. So I'll just end with that. That was a lot about two. Any more information? Let me know. I'd be love to talk. Hey, Bubbling, Citra, Beach, out.